Hey there, and welcome back to Batman Week here on the channel. Today I'm going to take a look at All-Star Batman and Robin the Boy Wonder, number 10. And this was by Frank Miller and Jim Lee, and this was the last issue of the series that DC put out. Last week, DC Comics released a new Red Hood series, and as the first issue was coming out, the writer of the series made some public comments that DC apparently wasn't comfortable with, and so they canceled the series and recalled the first issue. And so, like that book, this one was also recalled back in the day. So this was a book I was getting. I'm trying to remember all the details of it at the time, but I don't think my comic shop got them in. I'm pretty sure I had to buy this one off of eBay once the news sort of broke out about what was going on with it. And so this was pretty much a controversial series from the time it started. People just sort of took issue with Batman's characterization in this book and how he treated Robin. Again, so this is Frank Miller and Jim Lee working together on a Batman book. Expectations were really high for this book. Frank Miller coming back after so long to do a new Batman story. And so this is sort of like when Batman first gets Robin and he starts working with him. And, this is also the book that became notorious for Batman saying he is the GD Batman and all that back in the day. But that's not why this issue was recalled. So it's probably not going to show up on camera here. But if you can see the little censored black bars in the dialogue here, if you're looking at it in person, if you get right up on those, you can see the words that they're blacking out underneath. So the letterer actually wrote the actual swear words in there. Like they typed them out, apparently, the actual word, and then put the bar over the top of it. Why they did that, I have no idea. There really is no good reason production-wise to be doing that. There were some different explanations given at the time. I don't really feel like any of those reasons held water back then. They definitely don't now. And it's a real weird choice. I think they were really kind of pushing boundaries in this book. And again, you can see here it happens kind of throughout. As far as the production side of things, there's really no reason to do that. I mean, you're really just asking for trouble with what happened here. So the issue seems to be that the black bar is not as dark or rich a black as the text that's underneath. So you can kind of see, you can read it pretty clearly when you get up close to it. My assumption is they were really kind of pushing the envelope in this book, and at some point I think they considered publishing the book like that with the actual words uncensored, and someone at DC probably stopped it at the last minute, hence the black bars going in. And again, usually comics, to sort of cover up swear words, you'll use, like scribbles, or you'll use like Grawlix, which is the sort of cartoony characters, almost like emojis that you see instead. I've heard recently, too, someone that worked for DC saying that you can't even use Grawlix that suggests the actual word. Like, DC will shut that down. Maybe they weren't as strict about that back then. Maybe this is why that's the policy now. I'm not sure. But, like, you can't use, like, an ampersand and $2 signs to suggest a word or anything like that, even. Like, that's how strict they are. And, again, this book might be the reason for that. I'm not sure. But, again, it seems like just an odd choice. And if you know, like, kind of digital art and, like, printing processes, there's no reason for the real word to be under the black bar. And it really just seems like someone dropped the ball and they weren't using the same opaqueness for the black, for the censored bar, as they were for the lettering underneath. And so that's how it would have got printed. And again, 20 years before that, it probably wouldn't have been an issue. But, as printing processes improve and everything gets more detailed, more sensitive, and, better paper stocks and stuff like that, you can see the difference in person. So, yeah, there was a lot of weird stuff going on when this story broke. And again, DC recalled the book and, supposedly shredded them, but, enough of them got out. But yeah, it wasn't the last time there would be controversy with this book. this is also the last issue. So this was originally supposed to be a 12-issue miniseries. Again, this is sort of the companion piece to All-Star Superman. So on one hand, we have like one of the greatest Superman stories ever, and this we have a story that should have been a masterpiece that really just fell short for different reasons. It's possible that this recall issue was the last straw with DC. Again, you know, Jim Lee wasn't in charge of DC back then when he was doing this. He still had bosses to report to and that kind of thing. So this may have been the last straw for a book that was already gaining a lot of heat in the media. I mean, there is always the adage of no press is bad press, but, you know, maybe DC thought there was, you know, dealing with their star franchise of Batman. You know, they definitely don't want anything to happen to besmirch the character of Batman. So yeah, this might have been the last straw with that book, but again, you know, this was in 2008. The book still has never been finished. We're still short 2 issues. The story just ends abruptly in here. So yeah, we've got a to be continued right here on the last page with Gordon kind of sulking here. Again, could be a metaphor for how the creators felt at the end of this. But yeah, just a weird kind of issue all around, and just sort of like a weird way for this real controversial series to end. This wasn't the only time that DC has recalled and shredded a book. There have been previous instances of this happening too, and again recently just with the Red Hood controversy of last week. You never know what can happen, you know, with comic books and how people will react to them. I haven't heard anyone speak on this, you know, since it happened, really. So I don't think there's ever been any kind of explanation beyond what they said originally. I think no one probably wants to admit to what happened here. Or, you know, conspiracy theory, it was something they did on purpose to kind of stir up media interest in the book, and they probably won't ever admit that if that is the case. But yeah, have you ever read this? What are your thoughts on All-Star Batman and Robin? Do you have this issue? Again, it was a little hard to track down back in the day, but you could find them. There was also a variant issue cover of this too that's out there by Frank Quitely. But yeah, what are your thoughts on this, on how this happened? Do you have any conspiracy theories as to what really happened here with this book? Let me know in the comments below. And be sure to come back tomorrow. I'm continuing Batman Week here on the channel, so I've got Batman videos going up all week leading up to Batman Day this Saturday. And, you know, again, I've got the playlist going where I'm putting all the videos in from this year and last, so be sure to check them out if you missed anything. Be sure to come back and watch the rest of my Batman Week videos here on the channel. And thanks for watching. If you'd like to follow me on social media, I'm on Twitter/X at Detective651, also on Instagram at Detective651. Be sure to check out my t-shirt store at tpublic.com/user/Detective651. I've got a lot of nerdy designs on there, and there's sales all the time, so check it out frequently.